Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Marcus D'Angelo, not of WrestleZone.com, but I'm joined by my slapdick brother, Dominic D'Angelo, who is a journalist with WrestleZone.com. And guys, we are two Dynamite Dudes with attitude coming at you live here on a Saturday. Dominic, what's going on, man?
Nothing too much, brother. It's it's a sunny Saturday here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Is it not over up your neck of the woods there?
Over up here, it is, Dominic, and you're late. You came in late. Came in late for the podcast today. I'm sure you were just soaking up the sun. Steven Chambers, what's up, dude? Thanks for joining us. Nesha, welcome again. Good afternoon.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Hey, let's send our best wishes out to the Masked Superstar Bill Eadie, going through some health concerns here. That's actually wrote about that before a little bit ago here, before we jumped on here. So send our best wishes out to Bill Eadie, Masked Superstar. Very nice man. Demolition Axe, a lot of people know him as. But just going through some health issues concerning his heart, reportedly from PW Insider. So
yeah, dude, all the best to him. You know, it's in an era. He came from an era where there's a rampant abuse of your body, and so hopefully he can kick out of this situation, and we'll hammer on with a legend like him still out and about. You got to meet him live in Pittsburgh at some point, didn't you, Dom?
Yes. I want to say around 2017 or something where he last wrestled. Him and Barry Darsow both did a match at KSWA. And so it was pretty cool to see. Super nice guy, super down to earth, and super smart. Knows his shit, man. And Missy Hyatt put it best, like, could do a promo without yelling. And this says something too when you're like a part of a tag team like Demolition and you're able to just convey your message through calm tone. So
yeah, I mean, you would think that they would just be screaming their heads off. Nesha's saying it's not too great down there in Mississippi. We're expecting a lot of rain up this way as well here tomorrow. So I'm sure we're gonna get absolutely nailed with it. Oh, she's saying to switch from rain to heat. I cannot imagine the balmy summers down there in Mississippi. No, thank you. Dominic. Probably balmy in Jacksonville too, I'm guessing. You were down there a couple weeks ago. I'm sure the weather's brutal, but this was not my favorite episode of Dynamite. I don't know how you felt about it.
I thought it was an all right episode, but it's like nothing too crazy for it, right? I didn't feel there was anything like blow your hair back if we had any.
I mean, the best match of the night was the opener, in my opinion.
Christian and
Helico. Why don't we just jump right into it then, Dominic? And Helico comes out. He's facing Christian. Usually, Dom, I gotta say, Excalibur annoys me a lot. But this time, I really kind of like the backstory that he gave for Angelico. It kind of fleshed him out. This guy that we don't see very often. He's like this submission specialist from South Africa, and he was trained by Ultimo Dragon. And it's just like, dude, that's an awesome backstory. And then Helico himself, he does himself a lot of favors when he's out there. Like his gimmick, like knowing all sorts of crazy submissions, it just really works for him. Like, he's not a huge guy, but he's believable in that he's constantly it seems like he's coming up with new submissions and just out wrestling people. So I thought it was great. And Christian is just like, dude, one of the best comebacks in wrestling. Just unbelievable how crisp and smooth he is. It was a damn good match. What did you think?
I liked it, man. Yeah, I thought I really do appreciate Angelico and the submission stuff that he adds and how that is part of like his whole get up thing is being a submission specialist. And I could just imagine me if it was me in like the early 90s, 10-year-old me, I would love Angelico. Angelico would be my guy, not only because like just the way he looks, but like that neon green / black color combination, that I was a sucker for all that stuff.
Yeah, he pops off the screen. And I also noticed that he bumps very similar to Sean Waltman. Yeah, so I like him, man. He's got a cool blend of styles, which I guess is why he and Jack Evans call themselves the hybrid too, because it's just they're a hybrid of so many different wrestling styles. But it's just really, really cool, really good match. I see a lot in Angelico and Dominic. I say it week after week. A cruiserweight division with Angelico competing in the tournament for the inaugural tournament for the title. Come on, it's a layup.
Yeah. I thought so they did give backstory to this, but it was on Elevation, I want to say. I think it was on Elevation, not Dark. But they had a little cutscene between Matt Hardy, Jack Evans, and Angelico. And they played it off like Matt Hardy was pitching to Jack Evans to have the match against Christian. But here it was Angelico he was talking to. It's a pretty neat little segment, but it's neat to kind of, pair that up, like pair Dark up with, it does add context. It's just kind of a shame at this moment in time, that you can't put that on the show like a week before or something to that effect, where it's like, I understand you want to like kind of have that fluidity in between your programs so people will watch it, but it's also like, giving more context to somebody like an Angelico and a Jack Evans combination. It really adds to like the roster that you have, So, but
I gotta tell you, he was trained by Ultimo Dragon. He bumps around like the 1-2-3 kid. He's got these cool submissions. I think the only thing that he's missing, the thing that would really help him get over for me, is put him in a mask. Make him a singles wrestler. Put him in a mask. I just think it would be really fun.
Marcus, did you know what Jack Evans's persona was in Mexico?
No.
I think it was like he was like a masked fox almost, and they called him Zorro. Like he had like this. It's pretty badass looking.
That kind of works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty fucking cool. From what I think, I've seen some pictures of him. Like, I don't know if he ever fought Karrion Kross or something down in Mexico, because like Karrion Kross was known as the Devil of Monterrey or something like that. That's and yeah, so but pretty neat shit. Like, I'm like, damn, like they should bring Jack Evans in like that. Like that'd be pretty damn awesome.
Well, just real quick, Rich Murphy is saying, I'm thinking that the 10 p.m. time slot has something to do with the match card. It actually has everything to do with NBA playoffs, right, Dominic?
Yeah, and I think it does have a lot to do with the match card this week. Just because, you look at what the ratings have brought in the past 2 weeks, I'm sure they kind of well, maybe not. I don't know how far in advance, if this was taped during Double or Nothing weekend or later on, but this seemed like almost kind of like, okay, yeah, it's a late time slot. We don't expect a whole lot of people to watch. Let's create some good intrigue with certain things, but not bring the whole house, basically, put all our chips in, for this Dynamite, where it's like we're weathering a storm of the NBA playoffs, where we're in an odd time slot and we're on a different night. So I think Rich very much has a point there. So yeah.
Steven Chambers, Dommy says that's the best he ever wrestled in AEW. He's referring to Angelico. I agree, and I think a lot of that has got to be Christian Cage. I mean, he's such a wily veteran, can kind of handle anything. He's one of those guys where his profession, as a professional wrestler, it would be like the equivalent of like a pilot. And the plane is starting to go down. It's like, well, let's talk to this guy. He's been doing it the longest, and he'd figure it out. You know what I mean? That's what Christian Cage is in pro wrestling. He's just so good and so crisp, and he knows all these little tricks and nuances that if the match started going tits up, Christian Cage would just probably lock up with you and be like, okay, here's how we get out of this.
I mean, you got to think of the kind of track record he's had over the course of his career, all the different types of opponents, partners, everything he's had. So, Marcus, what do you think about them kind of rekindling this feud between him and Matt Hardy, just keeping it going with that? What do you think do you think it's just an intriguing aspect to Christian's story? Do you think it's going to help is anybody going to further get in the mix with him and Matt Hardy, to kind of get the rub off those two guys? Or how do you want to see that happen? What do you think about it overall?
Well, I think it's 100% a result of Tony Khan being a fan of the old school Hardy Boys versus Christian and Edge back in the day. So I think he just kind of wants to relive that, which I understand. But Christian is the same guy as far as ring skill is concerned. Christian is the same guy. Matt Hardy, I don't think he is. I'm not saying that Matt Hardy is bad. I'm saying he's lost a step.
Yeah, for sure, because there's surgeries and injuries, right, and all that stuff.
Not his fault. He's still a cool character. I like Matt Hardy, but he's not on that level anymore. So you're asking for something that you're not going to get, which is this 1998-99 Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian match. You're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
So I sort of like the idea, but I also see what he's doing, and I'm just not crazy about it, man. I like the fact that it's positioning Christian to have to defend himself against people such as the Hybrid 2 and Private Party, but that's about the only value I see in it. So I think the Christian is going to go over handily whenever they finally meet in a match. And Matt Hardy should really, I hate saying this about anybody, but I think that Matt Hardy should start thinking about his career after wrestling.
Whether that's, I mean, like, maybe not like totally after wrestling, I think is what you
like
mean.
A manager.
Yeah, something to that effect. I think it's more so leaning towards that, Marcus. I mean, look how often he comes out with Private Party, and he's got a faction that he leads. So I think, it's going to be a pick and choose kind of thing. Listen, I think from a perspective of, you have Matt Hardy on your roster, you have Christian on your roster, why not take advantage of it while you can, have this, feud between the two? If you're able to do it, why not make the most of it at the moment in time when you're able to do it, when the competitors still look like they do and still are able to perform at a certain level that they are.
I get it, man. I truly get it. I think that WWE is strategically not releasing Jeff Hardy because like that would be the match, is Jeff Hardy and Christian Cage in AEW. That would be the one to tune in.
Marcus, you have not watched what WWE has done to Jeff Hardy, but it's like a travesty. It's basically, they've jobbed him so often. He's just a nobody, man. He's a nobody. And like when they brought him and Matt back for that return, I predicted I think I made something on Twitter. Maybe I don't even know. I don't think I wrote an article, but I wrote something, or I said something, that Jeff Hardy, they should give Jeff Hardy one more world title run in WWE. And I think they really could have, but he's just a jobber. That's all he is right now.
Doing that to a former champion, I don't think it's cool, man. They need to position him the same way that they would position like Bruno Sammartino back in the day when he was like feuding with Roddy Piper and Randy Savage, where it's like you put him in a good position. You don't job him out. You don't make him look like a loser. You make him look like he can compete, but still have him put people over. All right, well, let's jump into a couple of these here, Dominic. Nesha is saying, who wasn't a fan of Christian, Edge and the Hardy Boys? Absolutely. But she does agree that as they get older and what they've put their bodies through, they just can't do the things that they once could. Yeah, I think.
And why expect that of guys like that? Like Jeff, the great thing about all four of those guys is they still look like, who they were.
Relatively young, and they look good. But Matt Hardy, I think he's just beat himself up a little bit. Nathan saying, isn't Matt Hardy doing that now, managing Private Party? He is, but the point I'm trying to make is that like I'm saying he should transition into full-time management as opposed to being kind of a tweener where he's finding himself in the ring too. I mean, we're clearly leading toward Christian in a match with Matt Hardy, and I think that Christian could help to carry the match, but like we're not going to get the kind of match that we would have gotten in 1999. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, of course not.
I think that's what Tony Khan wants, but it's not what we're going to get.
Tony Khan, I don't think who doesn't want that? But I think I don't think Tony Khan has those expectations, Marcus. Jesus, it's like over 20 years ago. It's almost 25 years ago.
If that's not his expectation, then he needs to put Matt Hardy in a position to succeed. And by that, I mean, put him with a younger guy who can bump around for him.
Well, who's to say that's not going to happen? Because look what they did with Sting and Darby. It's like they didn't throw Sting out there. Just, hey, wrestle this match solo against Ethan Page.
Hey, let's see how it plays out. Maybe we'll get Angelico and Matt Hardy versus Christian and Jungle Boy. You never know. Speculation. This is Steven Chambers. Speculation. WWE not done releasing talent. We just saw earlier somebody said that there's a lot of talk about Aleister Black coming in, right? Yeah, Benjamin A. Jones is saying that. Aleister Black, I said it last week, I'll say it again. Butcher and the Blade, Aleister Black, let's pair him up. We'll get Butcher and the Blade over.
I said this last week is number one on Tony Khan's list should be Aleister Black out of everybody that got released.
No question. There's a lot of money in that guy.
Did you happen to see his interview with Renee Young at all, or clips of it?
No,
it was really good. He's like, he has a great mindset. Like, obviously you're in the system of WWE. You're going to be like, you're going to try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit when you're given, and he was talking about having those confines of working in a certain regimented area of what he's allowed to do. And, his mindset was, if I'm going to die on a sword, I'm going to die on my sword. So he's going to do it by his own hand, he was saying. And then basically, he just kept doing, like, he just kept going and trying to come up with ideas and doing certain things like that. And then boom, out of nowhere, he kind of just gets released. And, obviously Zelina Vega, his wife, they are married. I was wondering if they were married or not last week, but they are married. And she was released. And like, he was like, Tommy End has something to say about that. But the professional Aleister Black was ready to go to work. So like, he had a really good philosophy about all that stuff and kept a good attitude. And then he just said, like, I look at it as a way that I was able to do stuff creatively with confines around me. He's like, so I know I'm capable of that. So it was like a really good interview. And like, he's from the Netherlands or Denmark, but like, if you listen to it, his accent almost sounds like a really thick New York accent. It's kind of interesting.
Nathan is saying Tommy End has phenomenal creativity. He will do well in AEW. They have more freedom. Absolutely. And, I think that kind of what's bad about AEW is also what's really great about AEW. And that's that Tony Khan says, yeah, do your thing. What's bad is when Kip, Sabian, and Miro are like, well, we really like video games. Let's make that our gimmick. And then they fucking suck for like, a couple months. And now Miro's like really coming into his own, which we'll talk about later. What's great about it is that somebody like Tommy End, who's got this incredible mind for the business, somebody like him, he could come in, pair him with the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, and like just watch him go, dude. He'll propel himself. He'll propel Butcher, Blade, and Bunny. It's honestly, it would be silly not to bring him in.
Marcus, you mentioned I know we're kind of going off the end here, but you mentioned like Miro getting like back on track and everything like that. I don't know how much we talked about it last week, but Mark Henry getting signed by AEW. How much do you think they're going to be like? They're going to put more of a focus on those guys as like, maybe being not necessarily like booking, but like so far helping creatively with guys and like kind of getting them on the right track of how to get a good attitude, not necessarily good attitude, but just how to promote themselves if you run through such a snag like that again, where it's like, yeah, that whole thing with Miro and Kip Sapien. I mean, we talked about it for weeks on end. We thought Miro is dead in the water. It's just like, over, basically, game over. But
yeah, I don't know having like, I love Mark Henry. I think he's a great mind for the business. He's old school to the bone. Here's the thing though, Dom, is that they have road agents and have had road agents already that have that mindset. And we still got the same crap at times. Ultimately AEW is the best professional wrestling on TV, bar none. But some of the crappy stuff that happened under the watch of guys like Dean Malenko and guys like Jerry Lynn. So
happy birthday, Jerry Lynn, by the way.
Happy birthday, Jerry Lynn. But there's these old school minds already backstage, Dominic, and I don't know if they're just not speaking up, if they don't give a shit or what's going on. But yeah, I don't necessarily know that Mark Henry's gonna come in and say like put his foot down and say no, that's wrong. Maybe you will,
Marcus. I would not be surprised if stuff like that happens. I think it kind of goes hand in hand where it's like these guys are available. They'll book a match and set it up for you, but also they factor in the fact that these are younger wrestlers that wrestle this certain style of like fast-paced boom, 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 where you can say your piece, give your input in, but they're going to do what they do in the ring too. And it's like, okay. And then like we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago or last week, how Tony Schiavone mentioned like, hey, I would love to see these guys and gals seek more advice from legends like Tully Blanchard. He mentioned him and certain things like that. So, I could imagine Mark Henry seeing something, especially like with a bigger guy like a Miro or somebody like that, or name another big guy. That's
yeah. I see like Will Hobbs. I see your point. And
where Mark would be like, hey, don't do that shit. Like, come on, this is how you got to get this done. I could imagine Mark Henry. I don't know Mark.
Well, he's outspoken. He speaks his mind, which is great. So let's hope that we're gonna get to nip some of the silly wrestle crap in the bud. But at the same time, Dominic, that is the nature of pro wrestling, isn't it? Like wrestle crap. It's sort of like some of the stuff that we fell in love with. I'm thinking of like the old school Chamber of Horrors. I'm thinking of fucking RoboCop ripping the cage off.
Did you fall in love with that though? I didn't fall in love with. I didn't fall in love with.
No, but
fall in love with Chucky.
It's wrestling. Like that's wrestling, dude. Like Chucky threatening Rick Steiner. Like that is pro wrestling. So like I get it. It's not always great, but it's part of being a wrestling fan is that you see that stuff. So I don't know. It's I think sometimes we as fans, we need to take the time to appreciate like, okay, this is a different genre than literally everything else. You know, you can't lump it in with soap opera. You can't lump it in with sport. You can't lump it in with reality TV. It doesn't fit.
Nothing is comparable to pro wrestling, but everything is comparable to pro wrestling.
It is a very, very unique genre. Dominic, let's move on here.
Let's say real quick, Nesha says all these folks they're bringing in will butt heads here soon enough. Watch. What do you think, Marcus? I mean, obviously, it's a work environment. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have all that kind of stuff. Do you think there will be some button heads to an extreme of where it affects the product?
Probably. You know, here's the thing: is you've got all these egos, and let's not fool ourselves. Like a lot of people who get into show business are egotistical people. So you've got all these egos that are kind of meeting in one place. You know, yeah, it's inevitable. It's inevitable everywhere, though. You know, I'm sure some of the stories that people would hear from my workplace would just be like, "What the fuck is going on over there?"
Right?
You know, it's just it's everywhere. That's business. You know, this happens to just be more highly publicized. So yeah, I'm sure that we'll hear plenty of stuff about it. I mean, we're already hearing it. Isn't there rumors out there that like Cody Rhodes isn't getting along with the rest of the EVPs backstage?
Yeah, there was talk about that. Cody kind of nipped that in the bud. Said that wasn't like necessarily the case. You know, you gotta think, you know, you're in a work environment. You're right. And wrestling, and I think that's a necessary part of wrestling is having an ego and egos. That's what makes it intriguing is like, you know, you look from Bret Hart to Stone Cold to The Rock, all those guys to CM Punk, all those guys had to have egos to get to where they were. Like, if you don't have an ego and you don't have, and you don't have an attitude about yourself, you're only going to get so far most of the times, unless you're like, you know, somebody like a Daniel Bryan, like where I like very little does he have an ego, but he's such a engaging, natural, organic personality that like that pushed him to stardom. You know, so
Dom, we got to talk about this real quick. Ames Holmes just joined in. What's up, Ames? He's saying today I celebrate 31 months clean and sober. Congratulations!
Hey, congrats,
that's incredible. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
incredible.
31 months. That's great.
Yeah, good for you, dude. That's awesome. Keep going. Keep fighting. Think about all the people that are important in your life. Anytime you think about doing whatever it was you were doing.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's hammer on Dominic. Holy shit! Brock Anderson looks exactly like his father.
Yeah. Was that the first you seen him? He's been ringside before.
Yeah. You know, I guess I didn't get a good look at him before, but like he stepped in there. I was like, good Lord. He looks just like a younger version of his dad. Awesome. Wasn't crazy about like the golfer, you know, yacht club outfit.
I was kind of curious about that too. I'm like, yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, was not crazy about that situation because it's like, you know, his dad's like this roughneck, like Southern, you know, beat your ass kind of an enforcer guy, and then it's like he comes out looking like, you know, like a preppy kid like, in high school.
Brooks Koepka at the U.S. Open or something.
Yeah, it was not good there, but I mean, the kid, he looks great.
Do you think they're implying something though? Are they hinting at something maybe with that get up? I don't know.
I don't know. I think that's just what he fucking wore in. But here's the thing is like, you know, who are giant marks of the old school? Who are giant marks for Arn Anderson? Yeah, it's FTR. It's the Pinnacle. I mean, how seamlessly would he fit in there?
Mark, it's right there then. That's the fucking look they had. It's like
it's true. And then the whole like he's a wrestler's son. Cody Rhodes is a wrestler's son. It like I'm seeing a heel turn, dude. I smell
Quick
something.
One.
I smell something fishy.
Quick one. It could be, dude. I did like his ground and pound punches. Like, you know, they looked kind of legit, didn't they? Or they looked pretty damn good at least.
Yeah, he looks good. I'm guessing he's been getting trained by QT Marshall, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your perspective. I mean, and I guess it's probably a good thing. I mean, you take a look at somebody like Anthony Ogogo, and just bam, he's there. He's
I don't think there's any deniability in QT Marshall's ability to train somebody in the ring.
He's like a Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. He just seamlessly worked his way right in, and just bam, he's good immediately. So hopefully it'll be the same thing for Brock Anderson. It's cool to see another member of the Anderson family, join in. I know it's like it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek Anderson family thing, because it's like obviously
wasn't necessarily
most of them, and you got like Carl Anderson, and then you've got that dude CW Anderson. So it's like, of course, they're not all related, but they're taking on the Anderson name, and they're taking on the responsibility that goes along with that, which is I just think is really cool.
It's neat. It's like, and hell, that's pro wrestling is like, okay, blurring the lines of like, hey, are we related? What's going on here? Marcus, maybe we're kayfabe brothers. And nobody kayfabe brothers.
Hey, Nathan is asking, how long will the Jungle Boy gimmick last? And I think it's a good question. It's a fair question, especially when he's trying to shoot for a shot at the AEW Heavyweight Championship. I don't think it can last much longer. He's turning into Jungle Man, whether he likes it or not. What's he going to be, like 35 years old, still calling himself Jungle Boy?
Well, that's what JR always says, and why he calls him Jungle Jack Perry. And
right, cut the boy, just be Jungle Jack Perry.
And it just kind of depends on how you define the gimmick. I don't think he necessarily has like a gimmick, really, like, because he's got that name. That the name's the only thing that's like kind of the gimmick, right? Like, I mean, he's got like the Tarzan music,
the gear,
the
slapdicks he comes to the ring with.
Dude, he could honestly wear that stuff when he's Jack Perry, like Jungle Jack Perry, and that would still get over it. Like, that song, he should never leave that song. That should be his song. So It's like, you're not going to break away from that. So, I mean, like, it would be one thing if he was like literally lived up to a Jungle Boy, where he was like, Mowgli from fucking Jungle Book or something. But he's kind of already shown himself to be like a persona that you can get behind and understand. Like, even in that little moment on Dynamite this past, I think that was almost the highlight of the show, was him, that brief interaction he had with Kenny Omega and stuff like that. I thought that was cool.
I want to see him like get away from the Jungle Boy shtick, get away from the
it's not a shtick though, Marcus. What's the shtick?
Just being a boy and coming out with like this whole like with Luchasaurus and
I'm behind you on that.
I want him to do his own thing. I think they always say like Jim Cornette has said before, like, when you go to a new territory, it's if you don't want to associate yourself with who you were before. He was using Buddy Murphy as an example. He's like, they kind of jobbed out Buddy Murphy. He was like, tell Buddy Murphy to cut his hair, tell him to grow a beard, tell him to just do something different whenever he comes to a new territory. So it's like, oh, okay, that was that Buddy Murphy. This is this Buddy Murphy. And I think that could work with Jungle Boy in the main event picture. Like, have him come out with grow a beard. Like, come out with a beard and that wild hair, and like, I think that something like that would be enough to help say, like, oh, okay, that before that was Jungle Boy, with the mutton chops and sitting on that big guy's shoulders. This is Jungle Man Jack Perry.
I disagree. I think that's kind of like a little heavy-handed to do. Like, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but like, I mean, if you're really gonna make him like, just have him gradually change into it. He doesn't got to do anything extreme, honestly. Like, maybe start calling him Jack Perry more. But like, I think you could call him Jungle Boy for still a really good amount of time, and it'd still be all right. Like, even if he goes up to a world title run, he's still at Jungle Boy. I think that's okay. I think what maybe matters most, Marcus, is that he just conveys somebody that's engaging enough that you get behind. And I think he's on that route.
I don't like it. I think Jungle Boy needs to go away.
I think it will, Mark.
Himself from Luchasaurus. Steven Chambers is saying break up Jurassic Express. Thank you, Steven.
I think I'm behind on that too. I'm with you guys on that though too. Honestly, I really am. Like Marcus, Spencer Love, who does a really good site, Love Wrestling. He does a lot of great interviews and just really, really passionate about the business. So if you get a chance, check out his stuff. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, Love Wrestling. But he made mention. He started off a morning here earlier this week with a clip of Gangrel coming out in Royal Rumble 1999. And like his music hitting and stuff, and like how over that was.
Dude, what an entrance. Unbelievable. Like that music and how like dark and sinister it was, and he's spraying blood out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And like he's wearing that white shirt, and of course all the blood is like dripping down the shirt. It's like, dude, that imagery, unbelievable.
Dude, Marcus, how fucking weird and creepy was that? Like, I had scrupulous religious fears when I was younger and stuff like that. Could you imagine me seeing all that shit and like, the Ministry of Darkness all going on? Like, listen.
Oh, dude, it freaks you out.
Yeah, it freaks you out, but it's also really fucking cool. Like,
and it came at the perfect time too, because of like Blade and how over that movie was, and then all of a sudden, like, we've got these cool, trendy techno music vampires that come out. Like, it was good timing, but. To your point, Dominic, we could bring it back. Let's sign Gangrel to a short-term contract with AEW. Let's pair him with Abaddon. Let's pair him with revamped Luchasaurus. Like, dude,
now, Marcus? Now I mentioned on Twitter. Who would you? They need like a really cool like edge almost of that group.
I got one, but it's like it would be robbing Peter to pay Paul. Who do you have in mind? Hook.
That is robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I really like Hook in Team Taz.
I like Hook as a badass in Team Taz, especially paired up with his dad. But like, how great would he be in that vampire?
How great of an angle would that be, though? Too, you think about it, like they.
Steven saying Luther. I don't know, dude. Luther's like
a little up there. You need like a cool
55 or something, man.
You need like if you're having Gangrel or Sinister Minister in there, I don't think Luther's necessarily needed. Like, Luther did some pretty cool shit. He did a pretty neat enziguri, I saw, by the way. But
I think he's got something. It's just we gotta bring out his potential a little bit. Dan Goose, he's 2 months clean himself.
I wanted to see it.
Congratulations, Dan. That's awesome.
Man, keep it up, guys. This is good stuff to hear.
Appreciate you guys joining us,
and keep yourself active, and it's good to do. Just keep hammering away. It's got to feel good too to be knowing that you're just chugging right along.
They say you got to scratch that itch in another way, like take up working out or something like that, yoga, meditation. Scratch that itch another way, and
something creative art stuff. Art's really good.
Anytime you think about it, just think about all the people you love and step away from it.
I'm drinking as I'm saying all this.
Yeah, I am too. So, sorry,
but no, good for you, guys. That's awesome. But yeah, I think like that would be pretty cool. I mean, we're fantasy booking here, but like Hook.
Well, Tony Khan listens, Dom. He has heeded our advice on numerous occasions, and I'm not joking, guys. Go back through the archives. We've said stuff, and then Tony Khan has turned around and done it. So
sometimes maybe that's. I think that's more so us being kind of
Dominic. Let's not take away from the fucking podcast here, dude. We're on WrestleZone.com. We're about his program that he makes. Tony Khan is listening.
Mark, I think it would be neat. Like, that would be neat to kind of go down this rabbit hole just a little bit. Is like, if you're like looking for a moment where Team Taz needs to turn babyface, or like you have Taz just be a brief babyface just for like he's concerned about his son because his son's getting like Renfielded into this like cult by Gangrel. Yes. And it would be kind of neat. It'd be kind of
fun.
Neat.
And by the way, the person converting everybody, like Luchasaurus and Hook, it's Abaddon.
Yeah,
like she's like pouring poison in people's
I think it should be Gangrel too. Like he's almost like the the Brood. He's like the head Brood, and like you can only have him for a short time. Maybe he shows up like once in a great while, but he's still like behind the scenes kind of deal.
Dom, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Steven Chambers, what's the latest with Rey Fenix? How long will he be out? Do you know anything about that?
I heard Cassidy Haynes of BodySlam.net wrote something that, oh man, I don't want to mess this up. He's dealing with some sort of injury. I want to say it's groin, but it's been reported that I think he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So about a couple of months. So kind of a bit extended time, but usually, when we're watching wrestling, that kind of flies by, doesn't it? So, I think he'll be out for a while, to say the least, I think, So, hence, Marcus, I guess that's a good opportunity. Pac and Penta, they tagged up with Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, let's jump on that real quick, though. Bruna Ferreira, Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Oh.
He's coming to us from Portugal, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know everything that you're saying, but hopefully you're understanding everything that I'm saying. I think he's saying the 2 Dynamite Dudes are awesome, something like that.
Don't know if I read that in that translation.
Actually, might be a female based on the context of the photograph. So let's hammer on though. Yeah, Dominic, that was a shitty match, but I do really like this version of the Young Bucks. I'll say that. Them coming out as heels. Now younger Buck, he's got the old beard going on just like his older brother, and it's I don't know, there's something about it. They just look like smarmy douchebags, which is what they've been this whole time basically, but they were like originally baby faces posing as smarmy douchebags. So I like this version of the Bucks. I like the heel Bucks. The match sucked. They buried their friend Brandon Cutler. And so that brings me to this point though, like his character wasn't worth a shit when he was doing this like D&D RPG guy thing, and now it's just like they're just flushing him right down the toilet. Dominic, it's becoming clear that if you're friends with the Young Bucks, they're going to fuck you over. Whether it's this guy or Hangman Page initially. Hangman Page is really trending upward though.
But Mark, from that perspective, Brandon Cutler wasn't even thinking of coming back into wrestling in the first place. Remember that interview we had? Like he wasn't.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna suck you out of your normal job. Let's put you on national TV."
Okay, so what
and embarrass you.
Mark? Would you rather be fucking punching in and punching out of the cubicle, or would you rather be doing what Brandon Cutler is doing on
TV? Of course, I'd
money?
rather do what Brandon Cutler is doing. But what's the longevity, Dominic? In 10 years, is Brandon Cutler still going to be working in pro wrestling?
I think so. I think he will be. I don't think he's
maybe in a backstage capacity. Maybe in a backstage capacity.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if that's the plan, what's the harm in that? I get it though. Like I think Brandon Cutler has more of a ceiling than what he's at. But and you know what? I was like really hoping. I was like, I hope he comes out in like wrestling gear, but he didn't. But yeah, man, it's I was up and down writing, so it's like I couldn't get a good assessment of the match itself. I mean, but yeah, it was kind of all over the place a little bit, right?
Well, it's the Young Bucks have a lot going on. They both got this like very Shawn Michaels kind of a look, like heel Shawn Michaels smarminess. 93. Which I love. But then if they could just adhere to like some of the basic tenets of wrestling psychology, the matches would be way more entertaining. Where as opposed to like just this train crash, like you know how Russo used to do what was called like shock TV. Vince Russo would call it shock TV, bro, where it's just like he's just trying to shock people all the time. Well, that's what they're doing as wrestlers, is like this whole like just train crash, like you can't look away, hideous situation, and it's like no psychology. It has like this is the wrestling version of Jerry Springer.
Hey, Jim agrees with you. I agree with the Jenner brother, kind of a-hole D'Angelo.
I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you. Is that James Peter Miller the third, Dominic?
I think it is.
Oh, what a garbage human!
Man, you want to talk about degenerate? That's one.
Yeah. Oh boy, we could really. The rest of the podcast could just focus on him, Dom.
Man, what a heel turn that would be too.
Anyways, let's move along. Damn strong promo by FTR and Spears and by Wardlow, by the way, who I don't know if he's ever done a promo, has he?
He's done a promo before, but I tell you what,
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, I've seen him do a promo before. He did one I think when they were at the dinner table backstage the one time where Sean Spears got aggressive, like with the waitress or waiter. I think he cut a promo. I know that. Oh, it was when they're all sitting down, and they got kind of flack for like, hey, why aren't they out in the ring? They should have done that out in the ring when they addressed everybody. I think that's when Wardlow did. But let me tell you, like, those promos, like not Dawson, holy shit. Dax had a lot of time on the mic in comparison to the other guys, but he was really good. But who really made me like lean forward in my chair was Wardlow. Like during that segment, I thought he's got such a good voice, and really strong presence already starting out. So
I think you could argue that Dax is a stronger promo than MJF. MJF, of course, is always good on the mic. But Dax, when he gets on, he's got like very clear points that he hits, and he's very concise. And I really like what he does as a promo. His partner Cash also awesome. I mean, everybody did a great job. Sean Spears did awesome. You know, it was a good segment until Dominic. We decided that we were going to beat the shit out of a limo. Then Dominic, things went a little bit off the rails because first of all, it's very derivative, right?
Yeah.
Derivative of the Attitude Era shit, where it's like we're pouring cement into Vince McMahon's vehicle and stuff. But then Chris Jericho gingerly hitting this thing because he was afraid of the glass spraying around. That was a rough scene. You know, it kind of got cool at the end when what's his face there, the big guy there.
Hager?
Yeah, Jake Hager, when he drove the forklift into it. I was like, okay, that was cool. That was a cool visual. But like up until then, it was just like Chris Jericho's like hitting it and sort of like turning away. And it was just like, dude, just don't even do it then. Or like Tony Khan, let's spring for like sugar glass
or
window,
something.
yeah. So we don't have to be terrified of damaging our eyes. So yeah, it's
or like hell, like get them having just wear goggles, like, you know, they could make a moment of putting
like why not, like that would even be fine, like have Jericho like flick open some goggles and like put them on his eyes and they could just go to town on this thing. But you could tell he was terrified about getting glass in his eyes. So
he probably kept thinking, all he was probably thinking about was like, Jesus, Goldberg punching the fucking window 20 years ago.
Goldberg punching the window was better TV.
Yeah, but geez, he fucking was out for how long? It
He almost bled to death, but it was better TV.
That's what I'm saying. So Jericho's probably thinking about that shit.
Just sugar glass. It's not that expensive. So yeah, that kind of like blew the end of the segment. But you know, it's been fun. It's looking like we're heading into singles matches between the members of the Pinnacle and the members of the Inner Circle. So
MMA match next week.
Yeah. So we're heading into those rematches. Looks like Wardlow and Hager, are they doing like an octagon cage match, like old school Lions Den?
Lions Den, akin to Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman.
Yes. So I think that should be a lot of fun. Stephen Chambers, the limo is heading to the Briscoe Body Shop. I think that limo is fucked. Dom, that was a weird pre-tape between Sting and Darby Allin, was it not?
Little bit. I kind of liked how Sting ended up reacting at the end. I'm getting feedback from you on your end. But yeah, at first I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't know. But then how just Sting was just like, yeah, you want me out? I'm out. It's okay, man. Like, I kind of like that. You know, it was a little like stilted, I think, at some points. But overall, I did kind of like it. Just Sting's reaction, I think. I'm
not a fan of scripted pro wrestling promos, but I think those could have used a direction there. Because it felt aimless. It felt like improv in the bad way, like when you want to get up and leave an improv show. So yeah, it wasn't good. I think that they recovered fine, but it was like they were sort of like talking over each other, and it was just weird. It came off very weird.
I mean, Marcus, we weren't really in tune with Sting in the early 90s. Like, we knew who he was and stuff like that, but like mostly we first became associated with Sting during, you know, Crow era, for lack of a better time. But I don't know. Is this like the best kind of mic work that Sting has done? Do you think? Like, overall? I don't know. I think you could argue it. They sort of took the mic away from Sting during the Crow era, and I sort of liked it more. I did like it like that. And when he first came to AEW, like, he just came out and it was like that death stare from Sting and the snow's falling. It was like, this is awesome. Like, I was pumped up about it. So I don't know. I sort of prefer Sting not talking. Not anything against his promo ability, but it's like, you know, he's this dark, brooding character, much like The Undertaker, where it's just like he's so much better as like this just silent predator. I think that Sting has this. I think him doing what he's doing on the mic is good for him, because it does give the whole act more longevity. Like, and I just think he's coming across for the most part. I mean, like with this pre-tape segment, the exception, pretty polished, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, eventually he has to talk. I'm just saying, like, if I had been directing that segment and we like stopped rolling tape after that one, I'd be like, let's do it again. Let's do it again, guys. So Dom, let's jump into one of the most anticipated matches of the night. How about Miro versus Evil Uno? So Dominic, JR immediately called Miro out initially on not being serious when he first came in. like right at the top of the match, he was like, Miro wasn't serious initially, but now he's really coming into his own. And it's like, leave it to good old JR to just fucking splash a cold glass of truth water right in your face.
Because he said something last week that I was like, when we forgot to bring it up, I can't remember what it was, but he said something that was like, damn, JR is laying the hammer down. I can't remember what it was.
He always does, man. And it's like, he's kind of at the point where it's like, I think he signed a guaranteed contract. He's making great money. And he's like, I'm just going to say whatever the fuck I want.
Whatever the fuck I feel. Because it's like, it's that point where it's like Austin, though. Like Austin, has said on his podcast, like when he's dealing with like WWE stuff and certain things like that, he's like, hey, I'm at a point in my life like where I've made my career. He's like, I can say what I want, basically. And
he's not trying to get any more money. Jim Cornette said recently on his podcast, like, you name the amount of money. I don't think you could get Stone Cold to come out of retirement. You could say like $50 million, and he'd probably be like, nah. It's like he's good. He's financially set for the rest of his life. Dominic, let's circle back real quick. Steven Chambers saying Darby versus Sky and Paige handicap match next week. I believe that we may see a surprise. What do you think, Dom?
I think he's right. I think because like Darby just being like, I'm gonna go handicap. Like I get the character of Darby doing that. That is one part I did not like about this segment was just the setup of that. Is basically I get that's kind of who Darby is, but also be like, I think Darby should be been like, all right, yeah, I'll find I got somebody. It's not a big deal. Like I'll find somebody, even if he didn't have somebody like from a character standpoint at that point. I think I would have appreciated more if he was just like, yeah, I'll get somebody.
Well, just for shits and gigs, Dom, who, if he's going to have some kind of a surprise entrant as his partner, who is it?
Lance Archer said that last week.
Oh, okay. That's right. Well, I think that's a good selection. Who else? We could say Tommy N, but he's got a 90-day no compete, right?
No, yes. So he's not in the running for it.
Yeah.
The only person that didn't have a 90-day no compete was Andrade.
Dom Jimsky, how long before Darby versus Sting? We have to see it, right?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Why?
Why do you want it? Do you want to see that happen? I don't necessarily want to see that happen.
Yep, absolutely. For the same reson that I want to see The Undertaker versus Sting.
I don't have
these two guys who are running parallel as far as like their characters and careers are concerned. So like they keep running parallel. Eventually, you want to see them cross each other, right?
No, I don't want to see it.
I think that's silly.
No, why? I think it's cooler that they're friends. Well, like why can't they always be friends? I don't want to see a feud between Darby and Sting at all, ever. I just don't.
You wouldn't like that.
No, I just think there's other younger guys that Sting could feud with. They don't always have to be together. Like they don't always have to be on a line, but they can just be indirect friends for like that cross paths once in a while. Like, I just like that idea. Oh, hey, here's a good suggestion, too. Steven Chambers says Davey Boy Smith Jr. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in it. But something I've been pitching for a while, and I'll pitch it again here while we're fantasy booking, is like I really like the idea of other second generation wrestlers coming together against Cody Rhodes in a heel fashion and saying like, look, you keep saying that there's more than one royal family in wrestling. It's not just the McMahons, it's the Rhodes too. Well, screw you, dude, because like my family started in wrestling too. Like you let's say Joe Hennig, let's say Davey Boy Smith Jr. Like it would be cool to see all these guys band together and say like, you know what, Cody, like you are not the only royal family in wrestling. You try to act.
Sure there's gonna be like that.
We need it. We've got Brian Pillman Jr. We've got
Brock Anderson.
We've got Billy Gunn's son. The list goes on and on. And it's like, that would be such a fun faction, wouldn't it? Of just like strictly made of second generation wrestlers saying like, no, you are not the royal family. My family's the royal family.
I think like, I don't mind factions. Like, I think there's a point to be made that like there's too many factions. There certainly is a point, but I really don't mind factions because, like, I mean, if you're in wrestling and you're in a group, like, you're gonna make friends, you're gonna have alliances. So I don't necessarily think a faction's necessarily a bad thing, but I also think that, like, that's we've had that with Legacy and just second generational talent kind of aligned before. I don't know if we necessarily need like a straight up faction or like even an alliance. I would like to see almost like not like it's in a certain way, like Hogan had to slay dragons and like different big men heels. Like, so he'd come across Earthquake, he'd come across King Kong Bundy, he would come across Andre the Giant. The list goes on of people he would feud with. If Cody went up against guys in that vein, like a Joe Henning and like Brian Pillman Jr. maybe, like where it kind of does go with that, like people do have a chip on their shoulder. I think I'd be kind of more in tune with that than maybe an actual faction going up against Cody, where it's just like,
I don't know. A faction's got more future to it, doesn't it?
A faction does, but a faction too, like you're solely putting those guys together because they're going after Cody. That doesn't seem conducive to their.
Maybe that could be how they start. It doesn't have to be how they end. I don't know. I'd like to see him kick the tires on the idea. Let's do a couple quick responses here, Dom, and then let's talk about Miro and Evil Uno. My name is Jeff is saying I'd want to see them fight, but at the end of the day, I don't know if Sting could go the same pace as Darby because of how fast Darby is compared to Sting. Dom, I think that's the point. Is that you've got a guy like Darby. This is tale as old as time with wrestling, right? Where you've got this older competitor and you put him in the ring with a guy who's younger and is willing to take bumps for him. And it kind of takes, it kind of shows, it takes away from the fact that Sting is not where he used to be, right? As from a physicality standpoint. So I think that's why they're the perfect marriage in a wrestling ring.
I just don't. I don't have any interest in seeing it. I just don't. I think that Jeff here makes a point. Like, I think you could do that. Like, Darby could do that, but I just don't. I don't think there's any really interest for me. And I don't think a lot of fans would want to see that either. I think there's just more legs in them being friends than them fighting each other. I mean, have them fight Cody sometime down the road. They teased that way at the beginning when Sting first showed up.
Sure. I'm game.
There's stuff
I don't know. I don't see why Darby's off limits for you, though. It's weird, Dominic. Much like when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash feuded.
Yeah, did you want to see it, Marcus? That's my point. Did you want to see Scott Hall and Kevin Nash feud?
No, I didn't.
Exactly. That's my point.
But you can't compare these two with them.
Why can't you? They're friends. We like them as friends.
It's different.
There's no, it's not. It's not different. They're friends.
They were in the clique together, Dom. There was no clique with Sting and Darby.
There is a clique.
Bullshit. Steven Chambers, who will be Miro's next opponent? I'd like to see Hangman. I'd like to see Hangman. I mean, there's a huge variety as long as they continue to position Miro the way that they have been, and I'm talking for a long time. Where it's just like, okay, who's next, and destroy him. Who's next?
Off the top of my head, I'd like to see somebody like Brian Pillman, like Jr. I know he's in a tag team, but like I think you could build a pretty good feud between him and Brian Pillman Jr. and tell a story. And like it's just a moment in time for Pillman again, where it's just like, okay, Pillman on his journey, stop on his journey, basically.
That's the issue that I see with Hangman is that like Hangman is really trending upward, and you kind of take a piss on the fire of Hangman Page. When you pair him with somebody like Miro, if you're doing things right, because Miro should be this unstoppable force for a long time to come. And if you pair him with Hangman, could wind up being an issue for you down the road.
Yes.
All right. So Dominic, let's talk about Evil Uno and Miro. I'm sorry, but Evil Uno should have barely been able to compete in the ring with Miro. And yes, Miro had the advantage throughout most of the match, but it should have been a straight up squash, in my opinion, where Miro, Evil Uno gets a little bit of offense, but Miro just winds up wiping the floor with him.
I do agree with you. I think what would have been the really cool moment would have been like where Uno managed to dump Miro out of the ring. Like that could have been like his sole offense. Like was a cagey move. He got a little bit better of Miro there, but then Miro just comes in and kind of wrecks him more. And I did like the finish. Like I liked that Dark Order came out to cheer Uno on. It like built that like connection that like not only did they talk about Brody, but they talk, the friendship that those guys have with one another. So them coming out and cheering him on and then seeing him lose like that, submit, it added some heelishness to Miro and some tone to the end of the match, I think.
Dominic, how heavily influences the Dark Order by the movie The Goonies? You've got this group.
Kelly brothers?
You've got this like group of dudes who are just like a bunch of nerds, which is why they're called the Goonies, right? And it's just like they're kind of rallying around this like one jock guy, which is like Hangman Page,
like Josh Brolin.
Yes. And so like they come out, and it's supposed to be that moment in like the Goonies where it's like,
yeah,
hey, we're coming together. You know, together we can face down anything. And then Miro's just like, and he like breaks Evil.
So he's like back. Mama Fratelli. Is that who Miro is in this?
Yeah, pretty much, except the heel went over.
Yeah. They got to bring Cyndi Lauper in.
Let's get Cyndi Lauper involved in this, Dom. I mean, she has wrestling history. She has wrestling history. Bring her in.
Yeah.
Dominic,
now I got.
How about Kenny Omega and that suit? Every week, dude, he looks more and more like Miami Vice, like Coke dealer. You're frozen right now.
I'm frozen?
There you are. You're back.
Okay.
Every week though, he looks more like Don Johnson, so just like doing a line of Coke. And like I love it. I love this version of Kenny Omega. Honestly, it has been the best that he's been on national TV, in my opinion. Yeah,
he's pretty good. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot different I can say from week in and week out about Kenny. I think, he patronizing Jungle Boy and stuff like that was really well done. And I just think he adds a lot of uniqueness to what he says and stuff like that. It's funny, and it's also like but it's championship material too in a lot of ways. I don't think it plays too much to him being, he's got comedy to him and he can get a little more serious, but I don't think it's necessarily needs that. I think him with Don Callis kind of like balances out the comedy in a strange way, because they're both funny, but it's also like you want to see them both get punched in the mouth.
I think AEW kind of showed their hand a little bit at the end of the segment, because Kenny Omega is very clearly caught in that snare trap where it's like, okay, Jungle Boy gets the advantage against Kenny Omega. To me, that's a clear indication that when they do finally meet, Omega will go over in the match. Because he's putting him in this position where it's like, hey, he could beat me at any moment, which is why it makes more sense for Omega to go over in the match.
Yeah.
But that's of course the right call, and I expect a barn burner of a match.
Marcus, I am standing by this, and I even will go as far as predicting it. Jungle Boy will kick out of the One-Winged Angel.
Oh wow, what a statement, Dominic!
That's my statement. That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
Dom, my name is Jeff is saying, I swear Kenny is AEW's version of Seth Rollins.
So Seth was, I don't know how Seth necessarily is right now as a heel, because to be forthright, I don't really watch SmackDown. He wears a lot of those suits. Maybe that's what he's referring to. And that's kind of the thing. Seth is a good heel. Now, I think he was really hampered by being tied to the Authority several years back. I did not like that aspect of it, and but I do think he was a good heel, and he can be a good heel. I also don't like the Messiah, the Monday Night Messiah. That just did not tie in well with him. Just not good. Penny, I think, boy, who's a better heel? I think Penny's a better heel. I really do. I mean, like, Seth's great. Don't get me wrong, but he's also under the confines of adhering to WWE's way of handling things, and I think that automatically you're built in with a handicap with that. I think that's just the issue overall. If you're a WWE star in comparison to a star in MLW or AEW or even Impact to an extent. Speaking of which, tonight, geez, I got to cover this. Tonight is Impact Against All Odds, and Kenny Omega will be defending the Impact World title against Moose. Marcus, how much you know Moose?
Very little. I'm familiar with him. Familiar with him enough to know that Kenny Omega is going to go over.
I agree with you. I like Impact as a show. It's a fun show. I look forward to covering it every week, actually, because it's a nice little, like, just an easy show to cover, but it's also like there's good characters, there's like good matches. Everything's relatively like Scott D'Amore does a very good job there. I'm not a big fan of Moose. I'm just not. I don't think he's got and that's like an issue I think in Impact is like they have all these good stars, great stars that they can really build behind, like W. Morrissey, formerly known as Big Cass, Joe Doring, All Japan Wrestling, who's got like this Jake Roberts / Stan Hansen / like you name it, ass kicker, Big Hoss kind of look. They have these guys, Jake something, Chris Bay, Willie Mack. I love Willie Mack.
Brian Myers, one of the most underrated hands in wrestling.
Brian, and I don't think they're utilizing him to their fullest potential either. But they decide to hook themselves up with and promote guys to a level like Moose where they've tried him already. He's got a look about him, and that's it. Like, and he's athletic. Okay, he is athletic too. I'll give him that. But just Moose is not an engaging guy. And like, I was really bummed that they had like these qualifying matches to determine who the number one contender was for the title. And Moose beat James Storm. And what would have been a better main event for Impact Wrestling? Who was more synonymous with Impact, right? Like overall at this point than James Storm? Like James Storm versus Kenny Omega would have been very intriguing of a match to have in comparison to Kenny Omega versus Moose. And Moose, yeah, I'm with you. Like, you don't watch Impact, but I'm with you. I don't think Moose wins this thing. But next up, it looks like they're building Sami Callihan, another guy that they've done with already. I would like to see Impact either at this moment in time have an established name associated with Impact go against Kenny Omega, or get somebody new there, like a Trey Miguel or somebody to put on a really, really good show, because honestly, Moose is not engaging as a personality to me. He does not convey.
I'm very hung up on Brian Myers, not just because I do enjoy his podcast, but also because like he's a really strong worker. Like you can tell this guy's had many, many years of experience in the ring. And like, let me tell you, dude, instantly, if I found out Kenny Omega's defending the title against Brian Myers, I'm tuning in.
Yeah. I mean, and Brian Myers is good. Like he does have a personality. I like his like most professional wrestler kind of thing, but he's like doing like this mid card kind of thing on in Impact right now, where he's like protegeing, or Sam Bill is his protege, and like he's just acting like a heel. Like there's nothing like, where I think there's more upswing. Like that's another guy they could really have built more around when bringing him in. Like, yeah,
they've got to give him more.
It's very head scratching. Like I said, Impact's a good product. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy covering it. I enjoy the stars that are in it. But I'm just like, what are you doing in the main event picture with all this stuff? Because there's so much potential there, and it's not being utilized. And it just seems like something that's hampered Impact for eras on end. Whether that's the Dixie Carter era, certain things like that, like where you get like they don't put the right guys at the top. Dom,
I think you gave me a good transition here, because we're talking about underutilized talent. Let's talk a little bit about Layla Hirsch. Good Lord, she is awesome.
Oh my gosh, she's great, man. I mean, she's great. And that's what made me tweet that tweet yesterday. Did you see the tweet I made about like the list of the women, all the women that are in the division?
Oh wait, yes, I did.
So like that's what made me I was like, dude, Layla Hirsch is great. Like, she's a star that you can put in that picture. And, and she looks different than everybody else. She wrestles different than everybody else. It's just like, she's another person that you can showcase in the women's division. And there was feedback I got from that tweet saying like, oh, I like 4 of those people and that's it. Or like, that kind of thing, where it's just like, they already like dismiss it all. Where like, I don't know how you really could with the majority of those names are great. Like, rock solid names that have their own unique personas, and there's an opportunity for them to build a women's division around just those names in general. And there's more that I didn't even mention in that thing too.
The fact that she's as small as she is and she's still able to have so much credibility really speaks to like her ring skills. Like she seems like she would tap you out. And so it's just she's really entertaining, very engaging. Of course, Nyla Rose was going to go over in this match, of course, but somebody like Layla Hirsch, you could take her and insert her into the main event against somebody like Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, and she will perform.
What a feud that would be too! Like, Like,
let's just picture this for a second. Britt Baker constantly trying to lock on the lockjaw against somebody who's a submission specialist like Layla Hirsch.
Yeah, there's a story right there. And you build, like, Layla Hirsch obviously doesn't have to go over. It's just a way to build Britt Baker over more, But it's like, that's another, like, it's almost like the Brian Pillman comparison I made, where it's like just stop on her journey that we're going to see. Yeah, man, like, she was great. How about the German suplex she did on Nyla Rose?
Oh my God. Awesome. Unbelievable. She put her in this very cool looking like armbar at one point too. Where it's like, if I didn't, already know basically that we're on the way to,
Britt Baker,
Nyla Rose and Britt Baker.
Britt Baker.
Yeah, if I didn't know that, I'd have been like, oh man, this is a good tap out moment here. She's got her hooked. Jim Dominic is saying Impact doesn't have anyone on the same level as Kenny Omega. I have to agree. Who is?
Yeah, that's an issue, and they don't, and like. That's the shame of it all, because they have these stars like Jake something, dude. He's got like a look and a presence, like where they put him as cousin Jake for this longest time, where he was partnered up with Cody Deaner, and like they just were like this hit comedy tag team. Where it's like, why wouldn't you really like build a guy like that up over the course of months, and instead of like putting him in this comedy tag team where you job out and stuff like that. Like they have these guys where it's just like, if you put the time and effort in behind them, you'd have these stars that you could just plug into that, and it'd be like, hey, it would obviously, I don't think would be to the level of a Kenny Omega, but it'd be something that would be like, that's an intriguing matchup I have to watch. Now, like, but yeah, Jim's exactly right for once.
Yeah, don't listen to Jim Dominic. He's a heel. Or Dominic Jim. Oh, for crying out loud. I'm all screwed up. I am all screwed up. So Dominic, last thing I really have to talk about, if you have any other topics you want to touch on, by all means, but the last thing I wanted to say is, man, Powerhouse Hobbs is awesome. That main event, he's the one who was really jumping off the screen to me, like just unbelievable look, great size. And like, does he need maybe a little bit more polish? Sure. But like, he's one of those guys, man, you could take him and insert him into any era of wrestling and he'd be a star.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Great pickup, great look. It's awesome.
Pretty damn good promo at this moment in time, too, I would say.
Yep. Trending upward in my mind. I mean, let's just for a moment picture all the fun that we could have with him.
Uh-oh, Mark, you froze now. Uh-oh. Well, if you guys can still hear me, I think, yeah, that whole ending segment in the match, it just creates more intrigue for Brian Cage, turning babyface, and like the feud going on.
Yeah, there you are.
You back? Okay, yeah, I lost you. I don't know which one of us was, so I just kept on talking.
so did I, kind of.
Okay, so they'll hear one side of the conversation at least. What were you saying? Go ahead, Marcus.
I was just saying that that somebody like Powerhouse Hobbs, it's essentially the point I'm trying to get to is sky's the limit. He's unlimited potential, and let's just stop for a moment and picture like some of the great feuds that you could have with him. Like credible opponent for Cody Rhodes, credible opponent for Miro. Just really a lot of fun you could have down the road with him.
That's the neat thing about AEW, and I think it kind of goes a little understated. Is like there's a lot of those guys that you're like, man, I would like to see that guy pair up with that guy, or this guy go with this guy, and like they don't pull that trigger. Once in a while they will, like you'll see something happen, but there's so many intriguing matchups that you don't even think about, and the roster is so big. So I mean, both a pro and a con with that, but I mean, like there's the intrigue of like, man, I'd like to see, I'm just trying to think of somebody pull somebody out of thin air, like a Ricky Starks go up against a Sting, somebody like that, which just like I'd like to see that. So there's those options like where you can move those chess pieces around her, and see how that all lines up. Yeah, man, I like, but what I was saying, I think it was a good segment too. Like, like from a main event, it kind of makes sense. Like it being like a late night Dynamite, like it wasn't like a huge giveaway. Nothing really defining certainly happened or anything like that. But like we're seeing a Brian Cage face turn, basically is what we're getting. So
yeah, I mean, that's been clear. Certainly made clear the last night. And they've been nudging us in that direction here for weeks now. So I'm happy with it. I want to see how they handle it. Want to see what the ceiling is for him. Want to see what the ceiling is like for Lance Archer, who came out and had a much needed win in a squash match.
I was really expecting more, to be honest. Like, not just a squash match. I was expecting him to cut a promo or something like that. I would like to see a promo.
What is the direction for him at this point? I can't think of it.
Just a baby face. I think it would be good to pair him with Darby Allin. And you know what? Maybe Darby Allin goes out without a partner, but who comes out to help him out is Lance Archer, and then you get something cooking there. I think you have those three, Sting, Darby, and Archer, like kind of align with one another. And then you got something going, I think, a little bit. And then Jake maybe finds himself bitter and angry, and he pairs up with a heel.
All right. Well, hey, I'm on board. My name is Jeff. I like Impact, but I just think that they need some more like fan favorites. People like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Rob Van Dam. I think so too. Getting a guy like AJ Styles is probably impossible. Samoa Joe on the cusp.
RVD is a possibility.
RVD is a possibility. I know he's got a good relationship with Impact. He was just there not too long ago. Yeah,
that would have been a way intriguing more match, like at Slammiversary, Rob Van Dam versus Kenny Omega.
I'm tuning in to that match without a doubt.
Right?
Steven's saying, how about Brian Cage versus Hobbs? I mean, it's the obvious, but good
I think that's gonna happen. Yeah,
it has to happen.
Starks is hurt right now, so he can't wrestle at this moment in time. So maybe the first person he'll go up against is Hobbs.
Yeah, and clearly Brian Cage is going to be clashing with Team Taz, and getting him across the ring from Hobbs. Come on
now. Yeah, Archer it is kind of funny. Him just like beating the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, what did he have like a plane to catch? Like why he just like whoops this dude's ass?
He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to do anything.
Enough. Yeah, he just immediately leaves.
Marcus, do you remember the wrestler's name that he fought?
No.
Chandler Hopkins. He wrestled in AEW, not AEW, MLW. I actually really like him. Got a good look. He's a good talent.
Yeah, hey, it's anytime you get on national TV, it's a good thing. Maybe his career is going to progress as a result.
Hey, we saw Zicky Dice. He jobbed to Lance Archer on Dark, who I just interviewed. Zicky Dice is great.
Yeah. Dominic, that's going to do it as far as I'm concerned for this week. Do you want to get into Meltzer ratings and MVPs?
Yeah. Okay. Marcus, what's your Meltzer rating?
Yeah, we call it a Meltzer rating. He does out of 5. I do out of 10. So this week, Dominic, it's a little underwhelming, got to say. It wasn't horrible. Just wasn't anything all that special. I'm not looking to have like a crazy debut. I'm not looking to have, insane, ridiculous storylines. But I am looking for like it's a quality pro wrestling program. So this week it was like a little column A, a little column B. I'm going to call it a 5.2 this week, Dom.
That's not bad. How you rate things, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. All right, do you have an MVP in mind?
Yeah, I think I've got to just go ahead and go with the person that keeps jumping out of me here, and that's Layla Hirsch. She did the job. She's trying to get Nyla Rose over on her way to Britt Baker, but like as far as wrestling and ring skills and ring presence are concerned, she kind of stole the stage.
Yeah, you know what? She was somebody that came to mind. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I could really choose.
I mean, I could have said easily Angelico or Christian. Those two. It was the best match of the night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Layla Hirsch. She showed out, man. Every time that red light goes on, she gives her best, and it shows.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to go with you too. I think Layla Hirsch is mine as well. I just dude. It's just like we haven't seen her in a while, but when we do see her, she always puts on something that's really eye catching.
Yep, she gives her best every single opportunity that she has. So I think very bright future for her.
Mark, what do you expect for next week with the sit down with Andrade and JR? Anything that you think that they should convey or get across real quick?
I don't know. My mind goes to JR sitting down with Mick Foley attacking him at the end. I'm not sure if JR is willing to let any shit like that happen anymore, but it depends on how we want to position Andrade. I mean, we're putting him with Vicky Guerrero, so got to be a heel. He's sitting down with a babyface announcer, so it's like something should happen.
What would be a good first feud for Andrade in AEW?
as like an actual long-term feud, or just like a good opener match to kind of introduce the audience?
Okay, if you're just talking about a one-off match where he like gets over real quick, I'm not talking about that. Let's say just an initial feud to start off. It doesn't have to be long-term, but maybe over the course of several weeks to a month or so to be like that, where he works with a program with somebody.
I think everybody's natural inclination is going to be Kenny Omega, but
I don't know about that, though. They're both heels. I'm thinking
right. That's why it doesn't make sense. And also, we want to take a little time and build toward it. But to me, it's got to be Hangman Page.
I think that's a good one. But then who are you going to put over?
Got to be Andrade. He's new to the territory.
Yeah, so I don't know if that is very much a good one then, if that's the case, because you want.
Well, yeah, Page is trending upward, but he can continue to, especially if they have like an incredible match and Andrade beats him in a nefarious manner.
Yeah. That's a tough one, man. That's a real tough one. I don't know who I'd put him against at this moment in time. I just don't.
But that whole like who goes over thing, isn't that what makes great wrestling program?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you could maybe. I was gonna say you could have him like kind of feud with like the. Yeah, no. Now that I really think about that, no. I was gonna say like from a talent working standpoint, I would say like Trent would be a good one. But then it's just like those guys are comedy. Best friends are comedy, and I don't think you want to associate Andrade with a comedy act starting up. I mean, look at what happened with Miro.
Honestly, I think Hangman Page is kind of the only answer for an initial feud. It's good in the same way that the first John Cena versus The Rock was good, because it's like, okay, who goes over here? This mega star that's come back to WWE, or this guy who they're trying to shove down people's throats is like, the baby face of the company.
Here you go. Steven Chambers says Pillman Jr. I think that's a good one too.
Sure, I think that they'd have a good match. I think that's more of a match that's like Andrade showing people what he's capable of on his way to somebody like Hangman Page.
But what I'm saying is, like, as a initial program, you can do that over the course of like a couple weeks or a few weeks and get a story out of it.
Hey, there you go. Andrade versus Pac. How about Andrade versus what's his name?
Ray Phoenix.
Penta.
Oh, Penta. Yeah, Ray Phoenix. Penta. That's a good one. That's a good one. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there are a lot of
Latinos. Maybe, Marcus, that might be what's going to happen, is because you think about it, how they've doing that video package that they did and stuff like that. Face of Latinos was part of that whole shtick there. So that could definitely be in the mix, is feud initial with Penta.
Yeah, either way, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. AEW, even on a 5.2 week like this week, it's still the best wrestling on television. So I'm happy with the program, and I look forward to it every week.
Yeah, me too, man. Like, that's the thing, is like so many people, and I get it that like people like are being like, okay, there's a lot. Wrestling is just not what it used to be, kind of thing. Like I do get that. Like, and certainly there's some stuff that can be tightened up and like could be corrected. But honestly, this is a good wrestling show. Like, I don't think that. I mean, like, you can make arguments where there's flaws. Obviously, there's flaws. But overall, it's just like, it's a good wrestling show to tune into. It's fun. It's entertaining. There's people you can get behind that you want to root for and see them go further. Where you can't really, a lot of the times you can't say that for WWE. It's just like, you cannot say that for baby faces because they can't book baby faces, right? But AEW, like, they got some great baby faces.
No question about it. No question about it. And, I expect, they've gotten better. Where they are now and where they were in, like, let's say early 2020, late 2019, even night and day as far as like quality. So, they're improving week after week, and man, I see huge things in the future. Yeah.
I mean, you got Rampage coming up, and just different aspects like that. I think, it's all going to be a trial and error process. See what sticks, see what doesn't. Marcus, you always made the WCW comparisons of like, hey, they're in like 94 WCW right now, or 95 WCW. They're getting to like this point, like you can see like kind of things developing. It's good. I think those are pretty good analogies, because like I was talking to, Degenerate Jim on YouTube. I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and we were saying like, hey, you go back and watch those Attitude Era shows, like a Raw. There's a lot of bad shit on there. Like
a lot of them aren't good.
Yeah.
even like WCW in his prime, when I was a mega fan, I've gone back and watched them. I've been like, boy, like 3 out of 4 segments sucked just now.
Yeah. So it's just like you're gonna get that with every wrestling show you watch, no matter what era it's out of, and no matter when you grew up. It's just like that's just part of it.
Here's and I've said it before, I'll say it again now, is like the way that you kind of nudge people over the edge as far as like gaining viewership is you got to spend the money. So like spend the money and bring in somebody like CM Punk, and just watch the numbers inflate, man. They will.
And you stay steady. That's the thing. You stay steady. Say what WWE can polish that turd as much as they want, and like they can make as much money as they want, and they do make a lot of money, and they do make a lot of revenue, and they do have like these ties with Sports Illustrated and all of these like big name markets and what have you, and obviously they're on primetime television. But the fact of the matter is, there's been an erosion over the course of the better part of 15 years almost at this point, where it's like
no question
3-hour Raws for over a decade at this point, nonstop, where indecisive booking, fans have left. There's no denying that. And that doesn't matter if you're in the streaming era or not. Fans have left, and a good deal of those aren't coming back.
And a lot of the fans that were just super into the WWE network because of trying to relive nostalgia, now they've been turned away because of the turn to Peacock. Yeah. WWE clearly doesn't care about their fans. They don't care about the history of wrestling. They care about money. AEW, on the other hand, this is a passion project for Tony Khan, and you can tell.
Marcus, I cannot deny, though, I am very intrigued by In Your House this week. Tomorrow.
Well, sure. They're bringing back Todd Pentangale. I think NXT.
Doc Hendricks. Marcus, the $1 million title's on the line.
NXT, Dom, is run by Triple H, and you can tell.
Yeah. It's a fun show.
Yeah.
I guess we have to touch upon this because this made some news. Did you hear what Triple H said about the women's division?
Yeah, he said WWE is better than anybody's.
And that everybody wants to go to WWE.
It's just bullshit. He's just being a company guy, of course. Yeah. I would say that Britt Baker, if you offered her a massive WWE contract right now, she'd be like, I'm good.
No, I'm okay. And that's did you see what Britt Baker tweeted?
No, what did she say?
She didn't say anything. She tweeted a picture of her and Thunder Rosa staring one another down in a Dynamite ring.
That's where it's at. The two best. Yeah. Serena Deeb is up there too. Layla Hirsch, in my opinion, is there too. Oh shit, they're not giving away a house at
man, they got to give away a house.
What is going on?
It's the housing crisis. It's a pandemic. People need a house at any point in time. Now is the time to get in your house.
Vince has more money now than he did back then. He can't give away a house. Just give away a house.
Man, Marcus, if they gave you a house at In Your House as a kid, where would you want to move to? If they were like, "Hey, you're getting a house," where would you get as a kid?
Dewey's Circle in Bridgeway, Pennsylvania.
So you would just stay in Bridgeway as a kid. You wouldn't be like, "Oh, I want to go to fucking New York City."
No, I'd probably just stay.
Fat Marcus would do
that. Dominic, let's sign off now. So guys, you can follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on Twitter. You can follow this podcast at two Dynamite Dudes. That's the number 2 Dynamite Dudes on Twitter. Dominic, how do they follow you and WrestleZone?
You can follow me at Dominic D'Angelo on Twitter. You can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com, and you can go to WrestleZone.com for all your wrestling news needs. Now, yes, I mentioned before I interviewed Zicky Dice. You can check that out. We have an interview with ROH's Josh Woods. There's also Alec Price interview up there. There's a couple other ones I want to say too. But hey, Marcus, we're gonna have a Dynamite Dude special. You're not invited, or you were invited, but you didn't show up. But I interviewed the AEW regular Danny Limelight.
Let's not mislead our listeners, Dominic. It's not that I didn't show up like I showed. I had a prior engagement. You notified me of this like an hour before it was happening.
I did. It was quite sudden.
Yeah. But no, it's awesome. I've said before, I love Danny Limelight. I think he's awesome. He would be an incredible contributor in a cruiserweight division in AEW. So yeah, give that a listen. Apparently he trashes me a little bit in this.
That's funny. It popped me to start the interview right off.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about his working with the agents like Jerry Lynn and Dean Malenko. He tells a good Dean Malenko story. We talked about comic books a lot. His time in the Marines, his 10 years. I didn't know he spent 10 years in the Marines.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's got.
The dude is like, if you're not familiar with him, he's like Ricochet. Like, he is incredible in the ring, unbelievable athleticism. Somebody who will for sure be trending upward.
It's a very good interview. I enjoyed talking with him. If you guys like comics too, we'll talk a lot about comics. So we'll get a fun interview, fun little chat. So be sure to check that out. That should be available next week. And yeah. So Marcus, you know what? We got another show, don't we? And it's a big one tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going live tomorrow with our other podcast here on WrestleZone at WCW Rewritten on Twitter. The podcast is WCW Rewritten. I've started at Starrcade 1997. I'm rewriting everything in WCW, and we've made it. I've gone week by week, every Nitro and pay-per-view, and now we're all the way up to Uncensored 1998. We got some crazy matches going on here. It's going to be a fun event. We're going live with that reveal tomorrow. So go ahead and check us out tomorrow, especially if you're an old school WCW fan like myself. It's fun stuff. I'm trying to book it as best I can. And I think things are going better than they did in actual WCW 98. And that was their biggest year.
Marcus, did you plug the Twitter for that?
Yeah, at WCW Rewritten. Go check it out. Dominic made an awesome graphic for this pay-per-view, Uncensored. The graphic features Canyon and Booker T, who are having their third match in a best-of-3 series for the television championship.
Yes, I make a My Way or the Highway video package for it, too. So it gives you a little backstory to it if you need to be caught up. But go on that. Yeah, follow that on Twitter, and you can just link up to that and get ready. We'll send the updates through WCW Rewritten and all that stuff. So give that a follow. And yeah, it's a fun show. It's been a lot of fun to just kind of observe. I might be playing more of an active role in it in certain regards coming up here.
We'll see.
Yes. So, all right, Marcus, good show today.
Absolutely. We want to thank all of you guys for joining us here today, except for Jim. We do appreciate everybody here jumping in, and we're always happy to answer questions. So, if you have any questions for either myself or Dominic, or you want to get our opinion on something, you can reach out to us on our Twitter accounts. Don't send me any junk mail. But yeah, DM either one of us. You can ask questions. You can just tag us on Twitter at either 2 Dynamite Dudes or at our personal profiles. And we will read any question you have, no matter how heinous or ridiculous or whatever is going on with this question. I'll read it. I don't respect myself.
No, and I don't respect Marcus either. So we're both on the same page in that regard. But hey, congrats to Ames and Dan as well, too, on being sober and all that stuff. That's
absolutely. Cool. Congrats, guys. And thank you, everybody, for joining us week after week. We really do appreciate it, guys. If you're not following us on the Twitter, give us a follow. And yeah, guys, we'll see you live again next week right here on 2 Dynamite Dudes with Attitude. See you guys.